Soul Tribe, Venus and Jupiter are taking the stage this week. They are bringing it, forming a conjunction while also talking with Neptune, and they're going to be moving into Gemini. Stay tuned to find out what all that means for you. But before we jump into that, for those of you who are returning, welcome back, Soul Tribe. I appreciate your subscriptions, your likes, and shares. Your support really is just the greatest, gang, and it keeps us growing. And for those of you who are new, welcome to my channel, Alchemist. My name is Justin. I'm happy your higher self has brought you here. We're in for an amazing journey. So what I do on this channel is go over the celestial transits that are happening each week. I usually do them from from Thursday to Wednesday. And I'm able to talk about the celestial chit chat, how this may be coming up in your chart, and how we can better get in the flow of these energies. So I'll be covering this week for the week of the 23rd, May 23rd through the 29th. And let's get started with that, because on the 23rd, Jupiter day of expansion and growth, Venus and Jupiter are going to be forming a conjunction in Taurus at 29 degrees 23 minutes. And there's a lot of cool things that are happening with this, because Venus and Jupiter, they're considered the benefics. You know, the Venus was considered the smaller benefic, and Jupiter the greater benefic. And when you have those two energies coming together, I mean, it's just abundance. You're thinking that's Empress, that's Wheel of Fortune energy that's coming through there. But I feel when we're talking about this being in Taurus, one thing to think about is just, do you feel deserving of the abundance? You know, whatever that means for you. Do you feel that you're worthy of that? Because the big thing with Taurus, amongst your finances, your security, is your self-worth, you know? And also there's this, you know, when I'm thinking about Taurus, I'm thinking about the senses as well. And I'm just like, again, that's how we're receiving things. And I just feel like this can be a time where you can shift that. If we've been having any sort of like blockages, been feeling like there's been less, this can be a time to just like, again, kind of shift that mentality a little bit. You know, put more, sure, we can always have more of something, but what are the things that we do have? You know, you have this vessel too that you can come. You know, it's like, how's the health of the body? You know, how do we have a roof over, have clothes on our back? You know, and I feel if those things, because the trickiness with this energy, because Venus is attracting things, you know, and it's how we, you know, she's about that receptivity. And with Jupiter, Jupiter, yes, he's a very abundant planet. He can be lucky, but the flip side of Jupiter and Venus, you know, is that you got to be mindful of the energy that you're pulling in. You know, if we're staying in the sort of like maybe defeatist, maybe sort of, you know, just in that lack mentality, then that's all we're going to attract is lack. And you could even do this in, you know, I remember once living in Colorado, and I had, you know, I was in a bit of a spell, and I remember one day I was still smoking at the time, and I was sitting outside, and the sun was rising, right, early smoker, and I just remember feeling just like really just disgusted, you know, just looking just like, ugh. And it's like, that's a strong feeling, you know, to feel about a sunset, you know, or excuse me, a sunrise. And I can see, but, you know, the sky is starting to light up. And it was just like, but really when I look around, I had I had everything, you know, everything that I could, you know, a person could want. But, you know, if you don't feel that abundance, then none of it matters, you know, and that's something I feel to be important to. And that's something I think at that time. And you know, that showed me not to take everything for granted. And, you know, what I like about this too. Oh, and let me also talk about I don't know if I mentioned, with the conjunction. A conjunction, and what I like to personally do when we're talking about planets outside of the moon, I like to keep them within a 3-degree orb. So if with it being at 29 degrees, if it was at 26, 27, 28, I'd consider that in the conjunction orb, or, you know, outside of that 0, 1, 2, yeah, maybe 1, 2, even 3, we're stretched, yeah. But, and it depends on how you know, pay attention to what resonates with you. But a conjunction is just when the energies are are in the same sign at the same degree, and this is a fusion of energy. And so you can take all this abundant energy and really kind of just like, this can be a time where if you already are feeling in a place, how do you want to take that further? How do you want to take that great feeling and expand that even more? Maybe you've been doing really well at your job. Maybe you're thinking about going for a promotion. Maybe you want to step into more responsibility because you're feeling like, yeah, I can take this on. I absolutely have this skill. Or maybe you're feeling, it could be a number of things I feel with this, but also what I like to talk about with the conjunctions energy more in particular, since it's just the 1 degree that we're focusing on, I like to bring in the Sabian symbols that talk about this. And Sabian symbols, they give each of the degrees in the 360, because each zodiac sign has 30 degrees. And it gives each of them a story. It's a tale of the progression through the zodiac sign. It's very fascinating. I suggest looking into that if that's something that resonates with you. But this is phase 30 of Taurus, which is a peacock parading on the terrace of an old castle. And I love that imagery because in the keynote for this is the personal display of inherited gifts. Now, before I really get into that, this energy reminds me of when I used to live in Florida. There was this, probably one of the favorite places I've ever lived at. There was this cul-de-sac that we lived in, and there were just these wild peacocks that were just out and about. Neighborhood peacocks. It was the wildest thing. It was actually pretty fantastic. There was one in particular, Carl. Always would wait for, be there. We'd get from the job and then be kind of pulling in, and Carl would be sitting out on the porch, and he'd open his tail feathers, do a little dance, do the whole thing, showing his worth, showing his inherited value, showing that it's like he was telling his tale, but it was so beautiful, And when I think about this Sabian symbol, this is taking the inherited gifts of your experience up until now, the triumphs, the failures, because they're gifts that came from all those things. And it's how have those energies shaped you, and how do you want to grow? Like thinking about how you've grown from that, and where do you want to take this on this next level? This doesn't have to, when I say this is like a glow up, this can be, that looks differently for everyone. This could just be not feeling so crappy getting out of bed each day. Or this could be finally getting on that workout routine. Or this could be maybe standing firm in your boundaries, like maybe saying no to certain things. Like, no, I can't work that overtime, or sacrificing for yourself. But when I think about that, when you're thinking about the peacock, it's that Venus energy. We're attracting this abundance. When the males are doing that, he's trying to attract himself a mate. He's trying to look attractive. And that's why I feel like this energy wants you to get attractive for the universe. The universe loves you. It loves the energy that you're bringing. You are a snapshot of universe. So flaunt that. And however that means, be in your gifts, be in your energy. And the thing too, I made a little note on this. The peacock is consecrated to Venus. It's sacred to Venus. And I feel like to think about our relationship with Source, Universe, God, however you connect with it, there's knowing that you're consecrated to that source. And so I feel that there's just a need to really kind of walk proud in what you've been through. And we may not feel, that's not to say like you may not be feeling at your best, you not be doing this, but knowing that you can get on the other side of that. And there's a lot of support in just the day, because the next energy, and I don't know if I mentioned what time, this is happening at 1:29 a.m. and that's Pacific time. Now, going into this next energy at 3:50 a.m., Venus is going to be forming a sextile with Neptune at 29 degrees and 30 minutes, Venus and Taurus, Neptune in Pisces. Now, this is really cool too, because sextiles, again, create these opportunities. This is a really rich day, and this is going to kind of carry into, it's already been kind of building up since about Monday, and it's really kind of carrying through to the weekend, to about Sunday. But with Venus and Neptune, both in their signs of dignity, this I feel can be just like, when I'm thinking about this for one, I feel like this can be really kind of pay attention to what inspirations come to you. What are you receiving from source? Like when you have an idea, like, oh, huh. Or if you're feeling really creative, maybe you're pay attention to where you happen to go. Maybe if you, because this is happening early, maybe you had a really great dream the night before, and maybe this could be, if you happen to remember enough, maybe write some stuff down. How did this stuff make you feel? And maybe this inspires some certain type of things. This can be, I would say this could even be over this week, find some ways to appreciate the beauty that's around you. This is like, this gives me almost like a connection of like heaven and earth, and just like really receiving the beauty of it's this kind of fantastic, and just let it be an opportunity to just, if at a basic level, just to get yourself feeling solid again, feeling hopeful, feeling optimistic, feeling like, that something is possible, that I can do whatever this is, insert the thing that you're trying to get started here. And pay attention to where this is happening in your charts. For me, this is, let's see, 29 degrees. So Neptune is in my 8th house right now, and Venus is in my 10th house. And, that has been, this, there has been how I utilize this opportunity. This was one where my title, the 10th house is how people see us. And my title did change. I got remarried. And when you think about the 8th house, that is getting into, when I even went to pick out the day that we were going to do the whole ceremony, it was like, oh, there's all this beautiful energy that was going on. That's how you can work with these energies. It was just like, how can we take this and like now we're building on something bit new, and the 8th house deals with that, like those joint energies. It's things are changing, transformations. There's a quote unquote death, which is our singlehood, and now we're forming this new fused type of energy. So that's one example of an opportunity that could be created for you. It's just like seeing where, and that's where it gets kind of fun, seeing where this stuff is happening in your houses and how these things can pan out for you, even with that conjunction with Venus and Jupiter that's happening in my 10th house. My 10th house has been lit up with all this, wherever you have Taurus, or you've had this Aries energy, but over this, with Uranus moving through Taurus, Jupiter had been going through Taurus, and now all this Taurus on my 10th house has been lit up. And it's been a lot of just like thinking, where am I going? How do I want to see? What things do I actually value? Where do I want to put my energy and invest in? It's been a whole lot of that. So, and I'm trying to take this astrology thing to the next level, to try to get this up, to get more familiar with social media, to do all the things, to try to get to where I'm moving into this like full time. So that's another example of how this could, think about the themes that are coming up for you during this time. That's where the houses really kind of come into play and can really be very beneficial. Now, same day at 1:30, we're not done with Thursday. At 1:30 a.m., or not a.m., we're in the p.m. now. At 1:30 p.m., Venus is going to be entering into Gemini. Now, this is really cool, I feel, for Venus. This is very social. This could be keeping things, if you're single, this could be a time to keep things light, to kind of get yourself out there. This is not a time to be a player and just, you know what I mean? Because Gemini energy can be very flirtatious, can be very conversational. I have a Gemini moon. And it's not, I feel like it's not meant to be where you're being like this. You want to be mindful with Gemini energy. There is a duality with it, but it is meant to there's a levity with Gemini. Things are light. It's airy. It's the twins. They just we're just gabbing. And so this can be just a great time for socializing, for meeting up with friends, for talking, even like Gemini deals, when we're thinking about that, deals with like our neighbors. This can be a time to get to know your neighbor, or get to know people a little bit better. Those. And not, again, this is Gemini. We're not necessarily getting a life story, but we're just making ourselves more present in our day-to-day. And finding the abundance in that sense of community, that kind of smaller sense as well, being receptive to that kind of community help. Or I feel like this could be a time where you maybe volunteer in different groups. And I don't mean just in like, maybe being a service. This could be maybe doing like different community sports groups. This could be maybe looking at different. I've been actually, now that I'm back, maybe I will look into this. I've been wanting to look for a Scrabble group to see if that's something where people actually meet. I remember someone telling me about that, so there could be a time for that. I actually might get out to that. Venus is moving into she'll be, after about, I think about 9 degrees, that's when she'll cross over to my 11th house, and that deals with friends, networking, and things. So that's a great time. I'm trying to figure out technology is one. But look at where you have Gemini in your chart. And because you may not have planets there, but we all have placements that where that falls. Like I was saying, Gemini starts my 11th house cusp. So that's going to be the focus when it comes to the Venus themes and as the Sun and Big Papa, and which we're going to talk about that next. But, I got one more. But this is, I feel, another great energy or great opportunity to pay attention to when we're talking again about Venus and being receptive. What are some of the things that you're hearing every day? What are you consuming every day? Because Gemini can deal with the mind. It's a very thinking, it's about thinking, communicating, but even on a more baser level, Gemini is just, when you think about, when I think about Gemini, I think about the mind of a child. They absorb stuff like a sponge, and before they even understand before they've even put words to it. And so I feel we want to be mindful of the things that you're hearing every day, from your music to your podcast, to the news, to just all of that stuff. Pay attention to that, because that, again, we just got done working with it. We're working with a lot of potent energy with this Jupiter-Venus thing. It's not to say that you can't feel down, but just acknowledging where things may be keeping you down. Gemini is perceptive. They share, there's some similar qualities to Scorpio, because Scorpio, you can't hide things from Scorpio. But Gemini is very perceptive as well. I found, as I've been being more mindful with my moon energy. That's something that I've noticed. I do notice a lot. Like you can really just you just see. It's just like, from the nuances to why'd they wave their eyebrow like that? What was that tone? That body posture is different. And then you get the Cancer. I'm thinking a lot, so then I have to ask because then we're just projecting. But that's Gemini. That's Venus entering Gemini. But overall, I feel this can be, again, a very light, fun type of energy. And I would say too, just one more thing. I'm thinking of just how the duality of Gemini, I feel that there's this can be an invitation to be receptive to just the duality of life. How two things, two very contradicting things, can exist at the same time, and how they come together. I'm picturing this thing of opening your mind a little bit more, being receptive to the dissonances maybe around you, and how those sort of things and not that necessarily make you feel some type of way, but do they make you want to do some type of action? That's just another kind of little download that's kind of come in. So just take that as it resonates. Now, last energy for Thursday, and then we'll get out of this, which I don't know why we want to get out of this. Oh. Well, I'll get into that, because at 2:44 p.m., Jupiter will be forming a sextile with Neptune. Jupiter will be at 29 degrees 31 minutes of Taurus, and Neptune, we've moved a whole minute. So this is 1-2. When we're talking about Neptune and Jupiter, they have Pisces in common. And they're both associated. Jupiter was traditionally dignified in Pisces, and he still is. But in my opinion, depends on who you ask. But Jupiter and Neptune have a very cool relationship. One that can give you, I feel, the inspiration to make your dreams come true. When we're thinking, and I know that may sound a little exaggerated, but it's not like it's just going to drop the dream in your lap, but it's going to, like, someone may come in, we're in that Venus and Gemini, someone may come to you and be like, hey, I heard this one, hey, you've been wanting to do this art thing. I just saw this billboard with something. I took a picture of it and thought of you. And so here, that could be a very constructive way of working with Venus. Oh, and that's something I wanted to mention about that as well. With Venus and Gemini, we're talking with a lot more people. Be mindful of of gossip. Gemini gets associated with that, and with my moon in Gemini, I'm one. I never participated in gossip, but if you have something to tell me, I'll listen. So just be mindful of that and just like spreading stuff around. We want to spread great vibration. We want to spread opportunities, not lowering the vibration. And, I was even listening to something, little sidebar. I was listening to something that was talking about the origins of gossip, and that really has gotten a bit, I got to look a little bit more into that, but it was a fascinating story. And gossip wasn't initially how we took it or how it's been perceived today. That used to be how when women would just talk amongst each other. I'm going to go meet a gossip. It was meant to be like a group of things. So, and this was to just talk about maybe what was going on, maybe what herbs we're working on with that back then. I'm just thinking with like what are they? Not midwives. Maybe that's the term. Not midwives. There's another word I'm looking for. But just like exchanging about different information. Like, hey, I've been working with this herb maybe for a while. That's been helping with this. Oh, there's this going around. How have you been working with this? It was meant to, I feel it was a more constructive thing, and it got turned into something. So I feel with that, just with all this beautiful energy, again, you just want to be mindful about what you're taking in, because Neptune is tricky. All the benefics are tricky, but Neptune we're getting dreamy, we can get delusional, it can get where, this could even be where, I would say, be very wary of overindulgence. I feel like with sextiles, I don't think I mentioned that, sextiles, they're when the planets are within 60 degrees of each other. So usually it's when like you have a planet in a water sign and an earth sign, or in a fire sign and in an air sign. That's usually, unless, again, depends on the degree, sometimes that may cross over, but that's usually how that progression goes. And I just feel like this could be an opportunity, just again, to potentially get lost in the stuff. So just be mindful of, I would say, of overindulgence. Of this could be very party energy when we're talking about Venus and entering into Gemini. You may carry into the weekend. Just be mindful of that. Maybe we're instead of driving, we either have like a designated driver, we're taking lifts, have some things figured out. Maybe we're just all going to throw away and get a hotel. Just being responsible. That's just, but over the caveat aside, this can really be one of, just moving things along, moving the needle. That's been the phrase that's been going around here. I've been kind of digging it, but this is a great for that type of stuff. Opportunities to, again, feel inspired and to have faith, I feel, in the dream, in the things that you want to make manifest, and knowing that you can. I like when we're dealing with like Taurus and Pisces, because that is you're taking your imagination and we're finding practical ways to make it happen, to make it build. So love it. Now, let's get into this next energy here, which I think is really cool, because on Saturn Day, which is Saturday, the 25th of, I have February here, the 25th of May at 5:15 p.m., Jupiter's going to be entering into Gemini. Now, I like that this is happening on Saturday, because usually, Saturdays are usually, most people's weekend. We're getting off, we're wanting to go out, do the thing, do all that lovely energy we're doing on Jupiter Day. But Saturn Day is more of a somber day. It's a time to get disciplined. It's a time to, and I'm not trying to pop your air out of this big Jupiter Gemini balloon, but it is a time to think that there's a lot of information that could come in with Jupiter and Gemini. Jupiter is in detriment in Gemini because Gemini wants to know all the details, know all the things, and Jupiter just kind of sees, just kind of goes with that big picture mind, or go with that, leads with that big picture in mind. So I just feel that this can be a time of, again, of seeing where I feel this can be, just because social media is such a big thing, it's become such a main avenue or method of communication, which Gemini, pay attention to, are the conversations I'm having in this, are they expanding me, or is it just a lot of air that's just around here? Because that's what Jupiter in Gemini, that's the trickiness that can be a lot of distractions. You could be all over the place with Gemini. This is a time, because Jupiter stays in a sign for about a year at a time, and it's been a while. And this is a time, look at where Jupiter is, where Gemini is in your chart, because Jupiter is looking to expand this area in your life. So yeah, just be very wary of that. But this can be a time for great, great energy for learning. Picking a couple of things, preferably if you can find a couple of things, that's Gemini, the duality, that can harmonize with each other. I feel like that could even be a really constructive way of working with this energy over the next year. Jupiter will be traveling through my 11th house. So this is networking. That's going to be a really big one for me, or that's a focus that I'm thinking about. How can I expand my network? How can I participate in the group that I just joined a group not too long ago? How can I be more involved in that? Maybe make my presence more known, something along those lines. Just, putting out these questions, just interacting a bit more, and that's how Jupiter gets you thinking about over this next year. And of course, that's uncomfortable for me. It's growing an area that when I'm telling you I hadn't been on social media for like a decade, I'm not kidding. It was something I completely missed, that whole expansion of just like YouTube, or not YouTube, but just like what happened with Facebook, the fact that MySpace is gone, Twitter, I don't know what's MySpace, Instagram, all that stuff, Snapchat, I have no idea. Twitter, is Twitter still on? Well, but that's the thing too. There can be mindful of, again, the information that you're taking in. Double check, triple check. When you find one source, find 3 more sources to verify. Even when I'm doing my notes, I have a few apps that I'm looking between, making sure that degrees are lining up, times are lining up, what's the consensus, but I feel like that's a time, just make sure we're double, triple checking, writing stuff down. That's a big one for Gemini energy, just because you can, because I feel like this could be a lot of overwhelm that could come with this, a lot of overstimulation, and finding ways to process that. Gemini, I do feel 1 is 2. I personally I don't have a problem sitting in meditation, but there are times when I am working through something, when I'm talking out a feeling, that I do, like Gemini, I feel needs to move. It needs to be active, something to work off that, to understand what's happening, to keep busy so that you can process all of this stuff. So just be aware of how this affects you, and over this next year that Jupiter is going to be transiting through your sign. Actually, he'll be forming a conjunction with my moon sign starting straight off, so that's always really exciting. But let's get into the next one, because on Sunday on the 26th, we have Venus is going to be forming a trine with Pluto at Venus, and this will be at 4:16 a.m. Venus is going to be at 1 degree 59 minutes of Gemini, and Pluto will be in Aquarius, in Pluto's retrograde. Now, trines are when the planets are 120 degrees apart from each other. So we're thinking common elements now. So we're thinking Cancer and Scorpio would be a trine. Sag and Leo would form a trine. Capricorn and Virgo would form a trine. So trines are flow. Trines create new beginnings. And I feel like this could be an opportunity to see. When we're thinking about Pluto, we're thinking about power. And does the group that, and kind of reflecting on, are the things that you're doing empower you? Do you feel that they keep Is the group raising you up, or is it bringing you down? Or are you raising the group up and bringing it down? And it's just like, what can we do to get in a better flow of that if we're not feeling that empowerment? That's one way I feel we can kind of, and just kind of reflect on, because Pluto is like constantly, he never leaves his retrograde shadow. He's always in reflection. He's constantly analyzing, looking a little bit deeper. How can I have improved this? What are the, getting down to the source of things. So, but I feel like this can be a real great time to get a relationship with, what is your relationship with your inner power, with what your gifts are. And really being, again, Gemini, perceptive of what is it, that unique thing that you bring, Aquarius, to the group, Aquarius energy, and how can that lead to this transformation? It's, I really enjoy just what this week is bringing. It reminds me of, oh goodness, we had something similar to this. It's like almost like kind of leading up to that, when the eclipse was leading up. There's a lot of build up to that, but it feels a little bit different. It feels more so of a taking maybe what you had expected during that first lunar cycle, and now it's like, okay, you had to really feel what you're coming into, and now we're kind of grounding in that, and now it's like the mind is starting to understand, because now what was going on there, because now we've gone from Aries, we're here I am, what does that mean? And then we get to Taurus, where it's like, okay, now that I've established that, let's ground that, like, what is that worth? Do these things actually, what if I started off, does this thing to really matter? And then we get to the Gemini, which again, it's communicating this stuff. And I feel this can be one too, where you can create a lot of opportunities, I feel, with other people. There's power in community, I'm thinking with that. And I feel like it's, how can your unique gifts, what knowledge can you bring to the table to get, I don't know, just like to get other people kind of talking here, to get some very inspired energy. I could see this trine being, but on, I do feel too, like, again, something that there's a lot of power with when I think about Gemini and how we communicate with ourselves. In Gemini, the dispositor of Gemini, I'm actually thinking about that. The dispositor of Gemini is Mercury. And so Venus and Mercury, once she enters into Gemini, is in a mutual reception with Mercury, because they're in each other's signs. And so I bring that up to say, it's just like the mind and the relationship are really in this conversation, is being supported by Pluto, that's wanting to change something here, that's wanting to transform, that's wanting us all to transform and to take charge, or not take charge, but to really embrace the wonder that is happening right now, because there's a big shift that is happening collectively. Some things are changing, and I feel like it's being something that is noticeable. It's in the air, it's in the conversations that are being had. So this is a time to flow with that. What side of the change are you trying to be on? And whatever that means, it doesn't have to be this, I'm not trying to put like an existential or like a morale thing on you, but it's just something to think about. Where do you see things changing, and how do you want to show up for that change? Now, on Monday, the 27th of May, at about 8:22 p.m., Mercury is going to be forming a sextile with Saturn. And Mercury is going to be at 18 degrees, 34 minutes of Taurus, and Saturn in Pisces. Now, this one too, we see a lot of opportunities with these sextile energies. This can be just a time of, again, paying attention to what comes up for you, the conversations that you're having. Putting yourself out there to have conversations. But I feel that one really great way I feel that we could work with this can be where the mind, Mercury, has found a way to, again, get something off the ground here with Saturn. With Saturn in Pisces, I like that energy, because it's like, for one way to look at that is like you're able to take that imagination of Pisces and really kind of ground that. Maybe you're wanting to to, I don't know, maybe you're wanting to switch up your style. Maybe you're wanting to, maybe you're wanting to go on that trip. I know these are very kind of blanket statements here, but again, not knowing, again, this is where we look in the charts and see where this energy is happening for you. For me, this is again another 10th house, 8th house situation here. And so when I'm thinking of when how I've been kind of working with this, or how when I feel about it, what aspects in my life, it's just like, how can I, what opportunities can come up for me to kind of expand on where I want to go? What changes do I need? Where do I need to be more disciplined in my changes? What things do I need to let go, Pisces, in order to get to what I want to build, that Taurus energy. And so that can be an opportunity for you to think about, where are some things that maybe we've been a little lax, maybe something, this could be too, where it could be an opportunity to see something is something sustainable or not, whether this be a certain habit, maybe this is whatever this may be, maybe you have, I'm just, for some reason I got maybe you have like a gym membership you haven't used for a while. Maybe this opportunity, maybe you're working out from home. Maybe you invest in some online or get some weights or something along those lines. Some money that you read, just some things I feel to kind of think about there. But I do feel like the thing that I liked, or I was thinking about when I was meditating on this, was just like, this is very great kind of blueprint energy. This is a time to, I feel, to kind of really kind of map some things out, and it's on a moon day, so it's like we're kind of really getting into, we're feeling what we're trying to attract, what we're wanting to embody, and then making that, and then finding that practical approach, that Mercury and Taurus, and that combination there, I feel like is just a very productive one. So, and then last energy, Mercury Day. I told you, a very, very busy week here. We have on the 29th of May at 10:08 p.m. we have Mars that's going to be forming a conjunction with forming a conjunction with Chiron, just the whole Pisces. They'll form a conjunction with Chiron at 22 degrees and 10 minutes of Aries. Now, I like this because I feel like this could be, we all have a Chiron placement, just like we all have a sun sign, moon sign, rising, we all have a Chiron placement. And Chiron is that energy of where we've been wounded, of what area in our life we need to take care of, and in taking that care of that gifts come from that, but it really comes to a matter of perspective. But and I like with Chiron, he's being pretty straight up. You've been injured here, but in that, it's like, I like to think of it as like, let's say, well, I'll just use my stuff for example. My Chiron's in the 12th house in Cancer, and when I was hurting, the emotions were a lot. I didn't like to, and I got into escapist stuff very, very young, and it, luckily with all my fixed energy before I got into that, I have I had a great example as far as just like moving the body, of working out all the time, which is actually the saving symbol for my Neptune placement, exercise, which is opposed to my sun. But I had a great foundation as far as like how to take care of my body. And even when I was in my escapist spell, I always worked out. I would even, there were some times the body was talking, doing some things that I didn't want to go get checked out. So I'm like, well, how can I detox and retox? it was the mindset was very skewed back then. But it was in that I started working with herbs a lot more. I discovered the love of milk thistle, which I went from using them to working with them. Herbalism was a big thing that I got from that. Meditation too, that came a little bit later. I had a kind of a tough spell with that at first, and but it's been in working on that spiritual journey and getting out of that fog, because it was around my Saturn return. That was when I remember hearing this voice that was just like, something's got to change. And that was it. And then I just started changing stuff. It was very, almost kind of drastic. Like I had quit smoking. I really I cut down almost immediately. Like just like, and then just ended up quitting altogether. And then ended up drinking less. And, of course I had little slips and stuff every now and again. But it was, I started working on that Chiron wound, that because there's a wound in my unconscious, in that spiritual side, and it's exploring that through the emotions. And I've had to allow I had to learn to allow myself to feel, and learn that I feel a lot, because my sun is trying Pluto in my fourth house is a lot. And but it has been a blessing, because when other people are going through that, then I get it, and I get it, and that can be empowering. And where I still, my wound still trips me up, and it's still, sometimes but it's why I got perspective on it. Well, that's not why I got it, but that's what it's turned into. But it can, Chiron can be a blessing or a curse, just like with any of the energies. But it really is that thing that you heal that in yourself, then you can take that gift and heal it in others. And sometimes it's healing that gift through others. I think about the people that I've attracted in my life, especially going through that period of time. And usually there are a lot of horror stories with, when I think about what I've done, usually that doesn't end well. But fortunately enough, and I really think I really feel like Jupiter being conjunct my ascendant kind of helped with that. But it, I ended up, at least I hope so. I ended up thinking there were some times where, my thing was, it's just like having like deep, like kind of philosophical conversation, talk about the darker things, what's going on with life, why are we doing this whole stuff. And people would tell me their things, and they're kind of more kind of 12th house type things, and I was like, well, from my experience, blah 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 blah, and I would hope that it was very helpful. So, but that's the power of Chiron. And I feel like with it conjuncted with Mars, it's how do we take that energy, that healing energy, and put it to use. And I love the Sabian symbol that this one falls on. I love all of them, apparently. But this is phase 23 of Aries, which is a pregnant woman a pregnant woman in a light summer dress. And even just that imagery alone, I just picture just the sun. This gives me Empress. The sun, it's just like just basking in the warmth, just feeling just abundant, and feeling just bliss, and just this connection with this. Oh, it's beautiful. And the keynote for this is very simple: fecundity. It's this literally abundance. And there is a lot of abundant healing energy that can come from this gift that Chiron has. And I feel that when we all take that step to do that healing, then it's a whole other world. As we treat each other with with more compassion, it can be a really beautiful thing. And I feel like it's taking what you've also too, I feel like that Chiron, since Chiron was involved in such a big start to this astrological year, in this with this new moon, or how it started off was in that conjunction to the minute with that new moon that started off. I feel this Mars conjunct Chiron is really taking what happened in that energy. I feel like that can come up again, but I don't feel like it's trying to come up in a way of overwhelm, which it could, because remember, Mars is associated with Scorpio. So this could be where it could be some intense stuff coming up, but it's just like, how do we let that empower you? How do we keep it from where it doesn't, like how do we grow from that and work with that, and start to begin to heal from that, and turn, what may have seemed like a oh, how do I want to put it? Seem like a handicap, really was more so a blessing. So But yeah, I think that's all that I got for you with the energy this week. We had a lot to go over here, so hopefully you can find that of use. And yeah, I hope you enjoy this, and stay mindful out there. Stay present. Take care of your body, and raise that vibration through the roof. And I will catch you on the next one next week. Mercury Day.